Hey guys, this is 5.6. We are moving on from exponents onto, we had polynomials, and now we are working on factoring polynomials. And this lesson is specifically factoring trinomials, which means you have the form x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, we're going to put them into, that is a standard form. We're going to put them into a factored form. When factoring a squared plus bx plus c into its factored form, maybe you would turn it into that, right? X plus one number times x plus another number. We are doing the FOIL method in reverse. B, this B right here, B is the sum of the two numbers. B is the sum of these two numbers. C is the product of the two numbers. So that means if I multiply 5 and 4, I should get C. If I add 5 and 4, I should get B, because sum is add, product is multiply. Product is multiply. Sum is add. If I add 5 and 4, I get B. If I multiply 5 and 4, I get C, okay? The product is C, the sum is B, okay? And the factored form will always look like x plus a number, x plus another number, or x plus a number squared. You could also do x plus 5 squared. All right. And we'll make sure to, we'll try to remember to check our answer. Recall using the FOIL method that you have two polynomials, right? Two binomials, and you multiply them together. So F was first times first. O was first times last, outside. I was inside, so last times first. And L was the last number and the last number, right? Recall using the FOIL method that we said x times x becomes x squared first. X times 4 outside becomes 4x out. No, first outside, yeah, outside. 2 times x inside becomes 2x, and then 2 times 4 last becomes 8, okay? And so when we, and then we simplify by combining the like terms 2x and 4x to 6x, our final answer is x squared plus 6x plus 8. And now today we are just doing the FOIL method backwards, okay? So let's pretend like I don't see this, okay? Let me explain this as though this was not here. You have, so we just looked at, and they called it A, B, and C, right? They called 6 the B, and they called 8 the C, and we want it to sum to equal, oh, sorry, that was the wrong color. We want it to sum to equal B, and we want it to multiply to equal C, okay? So in this case, when it's added together, it should equal 6. when it's multiplied together, it should equal 8, okay? So those are the numbers we are focused on. Two numbers that add to 6, and when you multiply them, you get 8, all right? Find two numbers whose product is 8 and whose sum is 6. Since 8 and 6 are both positive, a positive product and a positive sum, we are only looking at positive factors, right? And we're looking at the factors of 8. So let's look at 8. What are the factors of 8? We have 1 and 8, or we have 2 and 4, right? Those are all of them. And if we were to add, 1 and 8 becomes 7, right? And 2 and 4 becomes 6. So we have to choose the correct of the pairs of our choices. This is the correct pair because these are the ones that add to 6. Then we just factor the polynomial. Okay, so we take that number, 2 and 4, and we put it in there. So we say x plus 2, because it was a positive 2, x plus 4. Okay, and then we check it using FOIL. X times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 4 is 8, x squared plus 6x plus 8, which I realize that I'm just doing the opposite of what they already showed us up here, but I just wanted to make it clear what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be looking at B and C. We're going to be finding the multiples of, we're going to find the multiples of C, add them up and see if any of them add to B. All right. So let's do some practice problems. For this guy, we have A is 1, B is 13, C is 30, okay? So it's going to, we want two numbers that multiply to equal 30 and that add to equal 13. All right, so the multiples of 30, start with 1, 1 and 30. Oh, it's important to note that these are all positive until we get to here, okay? So we're only looking for the positive products, okay? We're only looking for positive factors of 3. 2 and 15, sorry, positive factors of 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, right? Are there any others? 5 and 6. Those are our factors. And what do they add up to? 1 and 30 gives us 31. 2 and 15 gives us 17. 10 and 3 gives us 13. Yay, because 5 and 6 only gives us 11, right? So this is the one we want. Okay. So now we have x squared plus 13x plus 30 becomes x plus 3 times x plus 10. Okay, because the only factors of x squared are x and x. So we're always going to multiply the x with the 10 and the 3 with the x. And that's how we get the 13x. We add them together. Okay, then we can go backwards and make sure we'll check it. First, x times x is x squared, outside 10x, inside 3x, outside 30. So that becomes x squared plus 13x when I combine like terms plus 30. So that checks. I checked my answer. All right. Example 2, x squared plus 11 plus 24. Again, both positive, so we're only looking for the positive factors of 24. Positive factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Okay. We also need them to add to 11. 1 plus 24 is 25. 12 plus 11 is 14. Close. 8 plus 3 is 11. Yay, because 4 plus 6 is 10. 4 plus 6 is close, but so we like this one. So we'll just write it here. X positive 3, so x plus 3, positive 8. X plus 8. And you are welcome to put x plus 8, x plus 3. The order does not matter. We'll check it real quick. X times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 8 is 24, just like we wanted it to be. X squared plus 11x plus 24. So we checked it. It's okay. Another positive. So now we have, it needs to multiply to equal 35, and it needs to add to 2. Interesting. Okay. Add to 2. 1 and 35 is a factor, right? Can't divide 35 by 2. Can't divide 35 by 3. Can't divide 35 by 4. You can divide it by 5, and you get 7, right? And those are so close that there's no other number it could be, right? Because we went all the way down, and then we go back up. All the way down, back up. So once you know you're this close, your factors are this close, you found all of them. 6 times 6 is 36, not 35. So those are all our factors of 35. Do they add to 2? We have 36. And we have 12. So there is nothing that multiplies to 35 and adds to 2. There's no pair of numbers that multiply to 35 and add to 2. So what we call this problem is we call it prime. Something that is prime cannot be factored. We just say this is a prime trinomial. We cannot make it any simpler, okay? Next one. We need this to multiply to 10, and we need it to add to -6. So this is a new one. So for this one, we need to add to get a negative number and multiply to get a positive number. So that means for all of these, our factors could only be positive. For this one, our factors can only be negative. Negative times a negative will give us a positive, but a negative plus a negative will give us a negative. So we're only looking for negatives here. What are the factors of 10? -1 times -10, right? That will give us a positive product and a negative sum. -2 times -5, right? And I think those are all. I think those are all the factors of 10. -10 minus 1 is -11. -5 minus 2 is -7. So again, nothing matches, right? We only had 2 to check. Neither of them worked. We only had 2 to check. Neither of them worked. So this one we will also call prime, okay? But we did get to practice negative factors. All right, this guy. This guy, we need to factor out the greatest common factor, okay? The greatest common factor. Factor out the greatest common factor. We have the number 3, the number 24, and the number 60. The greatest factor of 3 is 3, right? Can 3 go into 24? Yes. I guess it's negative 24. Can 3 go into negative 60? Yes. Yes, it can. So our greatest factor is 3. We have 1m, we have 2m, 1m, but we don't have any m's here, so we can't factor out any m's. We are able to factor out the 3. Okay? So if I take out the 3, just like we did last time, what? So now we're just doing what we did, sorry, last class is what I meant. What can I multiply by 3 to get 3m squared? Just m squared, right? What can I multiply by 3 to get negative 24n, right? So now I could even divide. I could say negative 24, and I can divide it by 3. Negative 8. Negative 8m, right? Negative 8. And the m, because I have no m over here. And now 60. Negative 60 divided by 3 is negative 20. Okay. And we can even check that. 3 times m squared is 3m squared. 3 times negative 8m is negative 24m. 3 times negative 20 is negative 60. So we know we factored that okay. We factored out the greatest common factor. And our remaining trinomial is x squared plus bx plus c. So that's good. Now we can just do what we were doing in example 1. So instead of using 60 and negative 24, I'm just going to use negative 20. So it's going to multiply to equal negative 20. And it's going to add to equal negative 8. Now let's think about this. We have a negative product and a negative sum. So a negative product can only come from one positive factor and one negative factor, right? To get a negative answer, I have to multiply one positive times one negative. So it's kind of like doubles all of my choices. We'll start with like 1 and 20, right? The two factors are 1 and 20. It could be positive 1, negative 20, or it could be negative 1, positive 20. 2 and 10. It could be positive 2, negative 10, or negative 2, positive 10, right? All 4 of these, each of these would give me 20, negative 20, right? After that, we have 4 and 5. Luckily, I think that's all. I think there are only 3 factors of 20, 3 factor pairs. So each of these will give me a different sum, right? 1 minus 20 is negative 19. Negative 1 and 20 give me positive 19. 2 minus 10 give me negative 8. Oh, good. That's the one I wanted. There we go. This one gives me positive 8. This one gives me negative 1. This one gives me positive 1. So I wanted negative 8. So that means I'm going to choose 2 and negative 10 as my factors. So instead of m squared minus 8m minus 20, now I have m plus 2 times m minus 10. And I don't want to forget to bring that 3 down. Okay, and then we're going to check it. So if I check it, I'm going to say m times m is m squared. M times negative 10 is negative 10m. 2 times m is plus 2m. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. And that's still with a 3 outside of it, right? We're still waiting to distribute the 3. So then it's 3 times m squared minus 8m minus 20. 3 times m squared is 3m squared. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24m. 3 times negative 20 is negative 60. So we got all the way back. So we factored it 2 different ways. We pulled out a greatest common factor of 3, and then we factored the resulting trinomial. All right, factoring by grouping. This takes some practice, but once you get it, I think you will like it. All right, so factoring by grouping, factor out the greatest common factor. That's what we did here. For a x squared plus bx plus c, find 2 numbers whose product is a times c. So over here, we were only worried about c, right? That's the difference. Let me show you how it's written. C, so for the ones we've been practicing, C is the product. But now, because we might have a number in front of the first x squared, we're going to say C and A is the product. That is the difference. But the sum is still B, all right? The sum is still B, but the product is now this one times this one, okay? One extra step. Then we'll put those into the middle. We'll put those into the middle, and then we'll factor by grouping. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to try to remember to do it at the end, but it's a different kind. So here we factor out the greatest common factor, 21, 41, and 10. Do you think it has a greatest common factor? Is there a number that goes into 41 and 21? Do all of them have x's? I don't think so, right? I don't think we can factor anything out. Instead, we are going to multiply a times c. So we start with multiply a times c, which is 21 times 10. We're starting with a serious one. 21 times 10 is 210, right? So we end up with 210. So now we want something whose factor is 210 and whose sum is negative 41. All right, so it will multiply to equal 210 positive. It will add to equal negative 41. Okay. Okay. So we're going to need to find the factors of 210. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry, I was just having a mind blank. So this is a positive factor, but a negative sum. If I want to multiply to get a positive, but I want to add to get a negative, both my factors need to be negative, okay? So I'm only looking for negative factors. 210, so we have negative 1 and negative 210, right? We have negative 2 and whatever 210 is, 105 divided in half. 210 divided by 3. It's like 21 divided by 3, which would be 7, right? And then 210 divided by 5, right? 210 divided by 5 is 42. What else do we got? Can we do 210 divided by 6? Yes, we get 35. What else can we do? We can do divided by 10, right? 210 divided by 7. We already did that. Oh, 7 and 30, sorry. $210 divided by 8. No. 210 divided by 9. No. 210 divided by 10. 21. -10, -21. And the last one is probably 15. 15 and 14. -14, -15. So that was a long one. Let's hope they're not all this long. We're doing this one. 21 times 10 is 210. Do any of these add up to a -41? This would be -211, right? This would be -107, -73, -47, 35 and 6. Yay. 35 and 6, right? So we found it. Now the directions are replace the middle term bx. So right now the middle term bx is -41 using the factors found in step 2. Okay. So we split 41x. I'm going to rewrite it, but I split 41x. 21x squared. No, I'm not going to write this. I'm going to write this. Minus 6x minus 35x. Okay. Plus 10. Which is just like, remember we were reverse foiling? And like when we were doing this one, we had -10m and plus 2m. So it's kind of like we went from the -8 to the -10 plus the 2. So we went from -41 to 2 different terms that add to -41x. Okay. Now I want to factor by grouping. This sounds difficult, but we will get used to it. Okay. So we want to look at these and say, which ones can we factor? Which ones are like each other? 21 and 6, do they have a common factor? 3, right? You can divide them both by 3. 35 and 10, they have a common factor. What about the x's? So I would take 21x squared and 35x. $25x squared minus 35x. Their common factor is 7, right? X. So I'm going to take out the 7x from just those two. Here, we're left with 3x. And then what would I multiply 7x to get -35? -35 divided by 7 is -5. All right. So that was just the first two. Now I'm going to look at the second two. -6x plus 10. So -6x and 10 both have 2 in common, right? Or a -2 in common. -2. If I want to get -6x from -2, I multiply by 3x. If I want to get 10 from -2, I multiply by -5, right? So because I chose these, I got the same parentheses, the same terms in parentheses. So now I'm going to combine the 7x and the -2. And I'm going to multiply that by the 3x minus 5. So that is how you factor by grouping. We made a group, we factored out a common factor, we got the same the same factor in each group, and then we combined the two front terms. Let's check our answer. 7x times 3x would give you 21x squared. 7x minus 5 is negative 35x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6x. Negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10, which becomes 21x squared minus 41x plus 10. So that one is correct. That was a hard one. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Do not worry. All right, factor out the greatest common factor. Is there a common factor between 3, -7, and 6? No, right? 3 and 6 can do 3, but 7 cannot do 3. So there's no greatest common factor. We're going to multiply A times C. Remember? Multiply A times C, which here is 3 times positive 6, right? We get 18. So now 18 is what we need to multiply to get and then we need to add to get -7. So again, we have a negative sum and we have a positive product. So that means all of our choices need to be fully negative, okay? -1 and -18, right? All our pairs need to be negative. -2 and -9, right? -3 and -6. They each multiply to get 18. Any others? 4? No. 5? No. 6. Back to 6. Went all the way up. All right. So 1 and 18 make -19. 9 and 2 make -11. 6 and 3 make -9. So nothing. There's nothing that fits both 18 and -7. If nothing fits, you just say prime. Okay. All right, this one. Factor out, we start with factoring out the greatest common factor. 6, -2, and 60. What could the greatest common factor of 6, -2, and 60 be? Well, the greatest common factor of 2 is 2, right? Can I put 2 into 6? Yes. Can I put 2 into 60? Yes. So we'll say it's 2. Do they have x's in common? No. Do they have y's in common? Yes. They all have y squared. How nice. They all have a y squared. So I'm going to say my greatest common factor is 2y squared. So I'm going to pull out a 2y squared from each of these. To get a 6 from a 2, to change 2 to 6, I need to multiply by 3, right? To get x squared from this, I need to add the x squared, but the y squared is already there. So 3x squared times 2y squared will give me this. Now, 2y squared -2xy squared. So I need a negative sign, right? Because it's going to become negative. 2 and 2, so I would just need to multiply by 1. X. I need that x, right? I don't need to write the 1 because the 1 times the x would just be an x. And then to get 60, I need to get a -60, I need to multiply by -30, right? And then the y squared is taking care of itself. Let's just make sure. 2 times 3 is 6. X squared, y squared. 2 times -x is -2x with the y squared. 2y squared times negative 30 becomes negative 60y squared. Okay, and that's what we had up there. So that's good. We factored out the greatest common factor. Now our A is 3 and our C is 30, right? We're going to multiply A times C. Three times negative 30, which is negative 90. Okay. So now we're going to say it needs to multiply to equal negative 90. It needs to add to equal negative 1. Interesting. Very small. All right. Negative 90. What can we do? Negative 90 and negative 1. So if I'm multiplying get a negative, we're going to have one positive, one negative, right? One positive, one negative. So it could be a 90 and a 1. It could be a 30 and a 3, right? It could be an 18 and a 5. It could be a 15 and a 6. Or it could be a 10 and a 9. Okay, and then we've got the negatives. It's a negative, so one of these is negative. So it's either negative 90, positive 1, or positive 90, negative 1, right? Negative 30, positive 3, or positive 30, negative 3. Negative 18, positive 5, or 18, negative 5. Negative 15, positive 6, or 15, negative 6. Negative 10, 9, or 10, negative 9, right? Which one will add up to a negative 1? Probably ones that are pretty close to the same number, right? So if I have 10 minus 9, I get 1. But if I get negative 10 plus 9, I get negative 1. So this is the one. This is the pair we want. A negative 10 and a positive 9 will give me a negative 90 when I multiply. A negative 10 and a positive 9 will give me a negative 1 when I add them. So now I switch that negative x out with a negative 10x and a positive 9x. So now I have 3x squared minus 10x plus 9x minus 30. Okay. And we'll bring this down later. So don't forget the 2y squared. Now it's time to factor by grouping. And this one was difficult because you could choose 21 and 6. They're factors of 3. Or sorry, they are multiples of 3, and then 35 and 10 are both multiples of 5. Or 21 and 35 are multiples of 7, and 6 and 10 are multiples of 2. So that one was a hard one to decide how to group it. But this one, there's only one good way to group it, because 3 and 10 do not have any common factors except 1, right? But 3 and 9 have common factors, and 10 and 30 have common factors. So I'm going to switch them. 3x squared plus 9x minus 10x minus 30. So I'm going to move them so that they are grouped in a way I can factor them. 3x squared and 9x, the greatest factor is 3x, right? So now I can say 3x times x gives me 3x squared. 3x times positive 3 gives me 9x, okay? And then I can say for the other side, negative 10 and negative 30. So negative 10 is the factor. x minus, sorry, plus 3, right? Because a negative times a negative times a positive will give me that negative. So now I have the x plus 3 in both groups. So I'm just going to put the 3 and the 10 together. So now I have 3x minus 10. And then over here I have x plus 3. And I need to bring down my 2y squared. So that was a hard one. Let's check our work. 3x minus 10 times x plus 3. So that'll be 3x squared as my first. Outside would be plus 9x. Inside would be minus 10x. Last would be minus 30. That changes to 3x squared minus x minus 30. And then multiply all of that by 2y squared. 2 times 3 is 6. X squared y squared minus 2 xy squared minus 60 y squared. Oh, I'm sorry. So often I do that. And that still matches what we got up here. Okay, so that is factoring by grouping. Now we are going to factor 8x squared minus 14x plus 5. Do you see a greatest common factor? No. So we want to start by multiplying a times c. A times c is 8 times 5, which is 40, right? So it needs to multiply to equal 40. It needs to add to equal negative 14. So again, if I want a positive product and a negative sum, these both need to be negative. Negative 1, negative 40, negative 2, negative 20. What else? Negative 4, negative 10. Negative 5, negative 8. Yep. All right. So if we add those up, we get negative 41, negative 22. Oh, yay, we got a negative 14. Okay. So instead of the negative 14, we're going to split it into negative 4x and negative 10x. So we're going to say 8x squared minus 4x minus 10x plus 5. Okay. And yay, I put these two next to each other. 10 and 5 have a factor. I put these two next to each other. 8 and 4 have a factor. So the greatest factor between 8x squared and 4x is 4x, right? So if I have 4x and I want to get 8x squared, I multiply it by 2x, right? 4x times 2x will give me 8x squared. What if I wanted to get a negative 4x? Then I just say minus 1, right? I cannot forget to put the 1, even though if there was anything else, I would not include the 1, right? But if the 1 is alone and I don't include the 1, I can't put the negative 4x down. So that's our first group. Our second one, negative 10x and 5. Negative 10x and 5, a common factor would be negative 5, right? Negative 5, to get 10x, I need to multiply it by 2x. Negative 5 to get positive 5, I need to multiply it by negative 1, right? Negative times a negative becomes a positive. So now I have 4x minus 5 times 2x minus 1. All right. 4 times 2 is 8x squared. 4 times -1 is -4x. -5 times 2x is -10x. -5 times -1 is +5. 8x squared minus 14x plus 5. So that was correct. 6x squared, factor out the greatest common factor. 6x squared minus 2x minus 20. They don't all have x's, but they do. This one has a 2. I can divide 6 by 2, I can divide 2 by 2, and I can divide 20 by 2. So I'm going to say 2 is my GCF. To get 6x squared, I need to multiply the 2 by 3x squared. To get 2x, to get -2x, I need to multiply by -x. To get -20, I need to multiply by -10, right? All right, now multiply A and C, and now we're using these as our A and C. A times C is 3 times -10, which is -30. Okay, so it needs to multiply to -30. It needs to add to -1. I'll write it again. Multiply to -30. Add to -1. Let's see what we get. If we want to multiply and for it to be negative, there needs to be one negative, one positive, right? So it could be 1 and 30. It could be 2 and 15. It could be 3 and 10. It could be 5 and 6. Those are my factors of 30. So if one is negative and one is positive, will they add up to -1? This would add up to negative or positive 29, right? Because if it was 30 minus 1, we'd have 29. If it was -30 plus 1, we'd have -29. If I put the negative in front of the 15, I would have the -13. If I put the negative in front of the 2, I would have a +13, right? 3 and -10 would give me -7. 10 and -3 would give me +7. Ooh, 5 and 6 though. 5 minus 6 would give me -1. 6 minus 5 would give me +1. So 5, a +5 times a -6 is what I want. So now instead of that -x, I'm going to put in a +5x and a -6x. So I'll rewrite it. Now it's 2 times 3x squared plus 5x minus 6x minus 10. So I just stretched it out. Remember, now I'm factoring. So 3 and 5, they have no factors. 3 and 6, they have factors. 5 and 10, they have factors. So I'm going to switch them around. 2 times 3x squared minus 6x plus 5x minus 10. All right. 3x squared and -6x, the biggest factor is 3x, right? 3x squared would be 3x times x minus 2 if I want to get a -6x, right? And then over here, we have a 5 and a 10, only one x, so all I can factor out is the 5. X minus 2. So we have the same binomial. Now we're just going to put the 3x and the 5 together. 3x plus 5 times x minus 2. and bring down that 2. Okay, so I got 2 times 3x plus 5 times x minus 2. If I did math, I would say 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Multiply all, combine like terms. 2 times 3x squared minus x minus 10. Multiply it all by 2. 2 times 3x squared is 6x squared. 2 times negative x is negative 2x. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. So that should be the same as this number. And it is. All right, guys, 2 more examples. 2x squared plus 9x plus 4. Is there a greatest common factor between 2, 9, and 4? There is not. All right, so we're going to multiply a times c. A times c is 2 times 4, which is 8. Okay, so it needs to multiply to equal 8. It needs to add to equal 9. Oh, we have all positives. Lovely. Back to positives. All right. So it could be 1 and 8, or it could be 2 and 4. Those are the only ones, right? Which ones add to 9? Well, 1 and 8. All right. So instead of the 9x, we're going to call it a 1x and an 8x. So I'm going to rewrite it. Now I have 2x squared plus x plus 8x plus 4. Okay. I put the 8 behind the 1 because the 8 and the 4 factor. All right, let's factor. So 2x squared plus x. What is a common factor? The common factor is x, right? So I'm going to pull out the x. X times 2x will give me 2x squared. X times 1 will give me x. What are my common factors? 8 and 4 is just 4, right? Two x times 4 will give me 8x. 1 times 4 will give me 4. So now I have x plus 4. And here I have 2x plus 1. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times 1 is x. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 1 is 4. 2x squared plus 9x plus 4. We got it. All right, guys, last one. Oh, no, it's not because I left that other one blank, if I remember correctly. All right, is there anything that I can factor out of 8, 10, and negative 3? There is not. So a times c is 8 times negative 3, which is negative 24. So they're going to multiply to equal negative 24. They're going to add to equal 10. Okay. So for a negative 24, the factor pair must have a positive and a negative, right? So it could have a negative 1, positive 24, or a positive 1, negative 24, 2 and 12, right? Negative 2, or maybe a negative 12. What else? 3 and 8. Negative 3 or a negative 8. 4 and 6. Something like that, right? So how do they add up? That would be 23, negative 23. Ooh, 10. We found it. A negative 2 and a positive 12 will give us a 10. So let's rewrite this as 8x squared minus 2x plus 12x minus 3. Okay, because 8x squared and 2x have common factors and 12x and negative 3 have common factors. So that can become 2x is its common factor, right? 2x. If I want to multiply it by 4x, I will get 8x squared. If I want to multiply it by a negative 1, I will get a 2x. Now I'm going to do plus. What are the common factors of 12 and negative 3? 3, right? Plus 3. 3 times 4x will give me 12x. 3 times negative 1 will give me a 3x. So now I have 2x plus 3 times 4x minus 1. 2x times 4x is 8x squared. 2x times negative 1x is minus 2x. 3 times 4x is plus 12x. 3 times negative 1 is minus 3. So that checks. Okay. And then I said I skipped that very, very first example. See if I can even find it. All right, example 2. No, we already did that one. Where are you? Example. Here it is. All right, we said 25x squared plus 20x plus 4. I said skip this one. These are two perfect squares. So I said to skip it. So if they're two perfect squares, there's a different way to do it, where you can just get an answer like this. So what's the square root of 25x squared? It's 5x. What's the square root of 4? It's 2. Because they were both perfect squares and they had the right number in the middle, it worked out to a 5x plus 2 times 5x plus 2. So what that will look like is, we can check it, 5x plus 2 times 5x plus 2. 5 times 5, 5x times 5x is 25x squared. Outside, 5x times 2 is 10x. Inside, 5x times 2 is 10x. 2 times 2 is 4. So we get that same answer. And don't worry, we will do this in a different lesson. So we will actually cover that. But if you see two perfect squares, you can just try that. Oops, sorry guys, camera. And that is factoring trinomials. Excellent work, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.